As we would now be able to assemble and manufacture these transformers locally, therefore creating local jobs. And therefore the intended imposition of this duty was to protect our local manufacturers and our local industry. Honorable Speaker, during the detailed consideration of the tax laws, the House actually excluded tariff number 8504-9000, which pertains to parts of electrical transformers and static converters, such as rectifiers and inductors, from excise duty. This deliberate exclusion, Honorable Speaker, was undertaken with the express aim of facilitating the local assembly of transformers, a move that, as I have indicated, was intended to also reduce the overall cost of electricity supply to the people of Kenya. And the implication of this decision is that imported parts of electric transformers, which fall under this classification of tariff number 8504-900, are not subject to excise duty. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, this was a commendable measure under the tax laws. However, Honorable Speaker, during implementation of the Tax Laws Amendment Act of 2024, an issue has now arisen or emerged regarding the application of the new excise duty on transformers. And as currently structured, the tax applies to all imported transformers, regardless of their assembly status upon arrival. And this blanket application undermines the intended protection of local transformer assemblers. Therefore, local transformer assemblers have been left in a quagmire since the classification of this tariff, as I said, applies a blanket application across all imported parts, regardless of the assembly status. And you find, Honorable Speaker, for instance, the tank that carries oil in a transformer is such a component that looks complete, but is part of the whole of the transformer. And indeed, when you are transporting transformers even to assemble, in many instances they are transported unassembled, and you go and assemble them where you are fixing them. And therefore, it has created a problem for people who are importing these unassembled parts. And that is why we have proposed, in consultation with the National Treasury, to do this small amendment to correct that unintended purpose of the tax laws of 2024. Honorable Speaker, specifically importers of components, as I said, that are intended for local assembly, are the ones who are now been faced with these unintended consequences of this law. And these components, despite arriving in a disassembled state, are classified as complete transformers. And that was giving the example of that tank that carries oil that looks like it's part of the, is a complete transformer, but it's just a tank that is a component of the transformer. And definitely under the World Customs tariff classifications and also the East African Community Common External Tariff, there isn't a specific tariff for assembled and unassembled transformers in their classifications. This absence of differentiation reflects the widely accepted practice that transformers are, by their very nature and logistical requirements, typically transported, as I said, in disassembled parts. Honorable Speaker, the current application of the Tax Laws Amendment Act of 2024, in conjunction with the existing interpretation rules, presents that unintended consequence that warrants urgent consideration. As excise duty on transformers will increase the cost of supplying electricity to Kenyans, hence impacting negatively on the government agenda on the last mile electricity connectivity. Because, Honorable Speaker, as this unintended consequence would mean then the cost of transformers goes up by at least 25% of that excise duty that was imposed under the tax laws. And this will mean that the program that we have, part of which is also funded by the donor community, on the last mile connectivity, which many members have seen the ministry officials from the Ministry of Energy, and even His Excellency the President commissioning projects around the country on last mile connectivity to ensure that we connect Kenyans, as many Kenyans as possible, to electricity. This will then become more expensive for government and therefore eat up the small resources that we have dedicated or appropriated towards last mile connectivity, and also eat up even the funds that are coming from the donors. Honorable Speaker, the Excise Duty Amendment Bill of 2025 therefore seeks to address this problem by amending the first schedule to the excise duty to remove the excise duty on imported fully assembled electric transformers and parts of tariff codes 8504, 1000, 8504, 2100, 8504, 2200, 8504, 2300, 8504, 3100, 8504, 3200, 8504, 3400 at the rate of 25% that was introduced last year as mentioned. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, I want to urge members to support this crucial amendment. As I said, it is intended to benefit the end consumer of electricity, who is the consumer and Kenyans at large, because if the Kenya Power, Ketraco, REREC are buying transformers expensively, that cost will be offloaded to consumers in the tariffs that they pay for their electricity consumption. And therefore, it is only right that we support this bill so that we achieve what was intended. First, to protect the local manufacturers or local assemblers of transformers. Two, spur job creation in the country as people manufacture and assemble those transformers locally. And also, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that there is technology transfer into the country so that we don't just import fully assembled components or transformers, also it may be, Honorable Speaker. And this is a policy direction that started, Honorable Speaker, you remember, even with the finance bill last year, that a lot of fully assembled or completed goods being imported to the country, having a policy shift to discourage the importation of fully assembled goods or products, to encourage people to manufacture or assemble such things that can be done locally here in Kenya, so that we create jobs, we make it cheaper, and we also assure Kenyans that the standards that have been used for the manufacture and assembly of any of these items are in line with our own standards and international standards. Honorable Speaker, you know you cannot control the level of manufacturing in other countries, but those within our country, we can be able to control the standards, and we can assure Kenyans of the quality of transformers and indeed any other goods that are manufactured locally. But those that are imported, Honorable Speaker, we may not be able to give that very high assurance as to the level, the standards of such and quality of such imported products. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move, urge members to support, and I want to request the chairman of the Finance and National Planning Committee, the Honorable Member for Molo, Kimani Kuria, to second.
The Honorable Kimani Kuria.
Honorable Kuria Kimani.
The Honorable Kuria Kimani.
You know where we come from, Honorable.
Yes, let me know. Where you come from. I would like to know whether you come from the same place with Kuria Kimani. Give the module one 30 seconds to tell me about where he comes from. I thought it was Kikuyu.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying I beg to move and request the member for Molo to second. I was saying where we come from, Kuria Kimani is Kimani's son, but Kimani Kuria is Kuria's son. So, may I request...
So whose son is the chairman of the Finance Committee?
The chair of the Finance and National Planning Committee, Kuria Kimani, then qualifies to be the son of Kimani. But not this Kimani.
The Honorable Kuria Kimani, you can speak for yourself on this matter.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, our very able majority leader, for moving this excess duty amendment bill. And maybe from where I started, Honorable Speaker, my name is an interesting story. Kimani is not my dad. I am a child of a single mother called Lucy Nduta. But I was named after my grandfather, who was called Francis Kuria Kimani. So when we did registration, when we were doing registration for our KCPE, I used to call myself Francis Kuria Nduta. But I was the only kid in the school who had a female name for a surname. So when now it came to registering for my KCPE, because I'm named after my grandfather called Francis Kuria Kimani, I named myself after my grandfather. So I ended up being Francis Kuria Kimani. So whether you call me Kimani Kuria or Kuria Kimani, it doesn't really matter. Because I'm not a son of Kimani anyway.
Maybe Kimani wanted to claim some credit. So you confirm your Christian name is Francis.
Sorry?
Is your Christian name Francis?
My
Christian name?
My Christian name is Francis.
Okay, go ahead.
So my name is Francis Kuria Kimani. So whether you call me Wanduta. Yes, and I'd like you to take this chance to pay tribute to that great man, my grandfather, who brought me up, who educated me, who sold everything he had to make sure I had the best education he could afford. Unfortunately, he died during COVID. May his soul rest in eternal peace. In December 2024, Honorable Speaker, this House processed the Tax Laws Amendment Act of 2024, which introduced 25% excess duty on imported fully assembled electric transformers, while exempting the locally assembled and manufactured transformers, whose excess duty, honorable members, was done with the intention of protecting and promoting local manufacturing. However, it was later to be observed that the intended objective of the amendment was not achieved, as the local industry still does not possess enough capacity to manufacture fully transformers to meet the country's demand. Second, Honorable Speaker, the entities classified as local manufacturers are in reality more of assemblers than manufacturers of all the units required for transformers, Honorable Speaker. Kenya operates under the East African Common Custom External Tariff regime as a member state of East African Community. Under this regime, Honorable Speaker, both fully assembled transformers and their parts fall under the same tariff code. Consequently, the imported parts required for local assembly are also subjected now to 25% excess duty. This has led to a general increase in the cost of transformers across the board, rather than reducing the cost of locally assembled units as originally intended, Honorable Speaker. To explain, Honorable Speaker, in very simple language, in East African tariffs, the ones we call HS codes, whether for transformers or for the single units, the HS codes are the same. So by subjecting now this 25% excess duty to fully imported transformer, Speaker, the unintended purpose then meant even the ones that are doing assembling here in Kenya are now subject to 25% excess duty. As a result, Honorable Speaker, whether you manufacture locally here or you import, the unintended consequence of that amendment is that both these two would attract 25% excess duty, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, this is what we are trying to correct this anomaly, Honorable Speaker. Electricity penetration in Kenya, Honorable Speaker, is reported to be at around 17%. This reflects both grid and off-grid solutions, such as solar home systems. However, even with these impressive rates of penetration and substantial population are still not connected to the national grid. That is why the government initiatives such as the last mile connectivity and investments in renewable energy sources such as geothermal, hydro, and solar are very crucial. For last mile connectivity to succeed, the cost of connection must be to reduce the cost of this transformer, Honorable Speaker, is therefore very, very key and very essential. First is the cost of connection to electricity. Transformers are essential components in the transmission and distribution of electricity. Every customer connected to a national grid relies on a transformer to receive power to their correct voltage and frequency. When a customer applies for electricity, they are either connected to an existing transformer or must fund the installation of a new one. The introduction of this 25% duty on transformers, as per the amendments, as per the Tax Laws Amendment Bill of 2024, has now, of course, led to a direct impact of 25% increase in the cost of electricity, Honorable Speaker. Many people in this House, Honorable Speaker, have witnesses of two things. You probably have a project somewhere, you apply for power connectivity, and you're given an invoice of Kenya Power of 1.something million shillings for that transformer, Honorable Speaker. The other greater problem we have, even in our constituencies, are transformers that have been connected to our constituents only for them to be recalled for being faulty. So you have gone, you have launched an electricity project, you have assured the people of that particular place that they're going to have electricity, and then a few days later, the transformer is faulty, and it takes so long, Honorable Speaker, for that transformer to be replaced. This amendment, Honorable Speaker, is now going to make it easier for those faulty, because in all the transformers that are displayed in the country, just like any other product, Honorable Speaker, there is a probability that there could be a fault. When that fault occurs, if this transformer is imported from China or from India, then it means that it will probably have to be shipped back to that country, Honorable Speaker, or that particular component that is missing has to be imported again. But when these things are locally assembled here, Honorable Speaker, it's going to be quicker to replace any fault that may happen in our transformer, Honorable Speaker. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, is the impact on electricity tariffs. The pricing of electricity is regulated by the Energy and Protection Regulatory Authority, EPRA, and includes costs associated with generation, transmission, distribution, and maintenance. Transformers, being vital assets in the electricity network, therefore require regular replacement due to faults, wear and tear, or vandalism. By increasing the cost of transformer, Honorable Speaker, the 25% excess duty raises the overall maintenance costs which are ultimately transferred to consumers through higher tariffs, Honorable Speaker. That is the availability of transformers for use across the country. Kenya Power typically procures about 4,000 transformers annually, 3,200 for replacing worn-out units, and 1,000 for expanding the grid and connecting new customers. With the increased cost burden brought about by the amendments, fewer transformers can be procured within the current budgetary and cash flow constraints. This will likely result in delays in replacing faulty transformers, extended outages, increased insecurity, reduced economic activity, and slower customer connections, especially in areas where a new transformer is prerequisite. Honorable Speaker, it is therefore evident that while the amendments introduced in the Tax Laws Amendment Act of 2024 were well-intentioned and aimed at promoting local manufacturing, they have unfortunately resulted in unintended adverse outcomes. This includes increased costs, operational challenges for utility providers, and a negative impact on service delivery. It is imperative that we reconsider the application of excess duty on transformers to strike a balanced and effective approach. Such a review is critical in aligning the government's broader development agenda, particularly the last mile connectivity. This flagship initiative seeks to expand electricity access to low-income households and rural communities for connecting those located within 600 meters of existing transformers. The success of this program hinges on the availability and affordability of transformers, and therefore the current taxation framework needs to be reevaluated to ensure that it supports rather than hinders the realization of this important national objective. Further, Honorable Speaker, the committee also proposed an amendment to the first schedule of the Excess Duty Act to correct an error in the classification of glass tariffs, especially concerning float glass and safety glass. The current act incorrectly referenced tariff code 7007 for imported float glass, whereas the correct classification under the harmonized system is 7005. This miscalculation has led to confusion and intended consequence, particularly affecting the transformation sector, which depends on accurately classified safety glass for compliance and public safety, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, again, on this particular matter, on float glass, the intended code was supposed to be 7007 for imported float glass, Honorable Speaker. However, this committee, this House erroneously classified that exchange code as 7005, and therefore one of the additional amendments we'll be seeking to do during the committee of the whole House is to also correct that unintended anomaly, Honorable Speaker. The types of glass that you see around are of different kinds. The glass that you use, say in banks, that has safety features, the glass that is used in our motor vehicles, the glass that is used on our glasses, Honorable Speaker, are all different kinds of glass, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, this differentiation, this classification, is going to ensure, again, that this House and this country prioritizes supporting of local manufacturing rather than importing, Honorable Speaker. No country, Honorable Speaker, has grown by being a supermarket. And that is the unfortunate truth we must all agree as a country. We cannot grow if we become a supermarket for importation. The way to grow is to make sure that we support our local manufacturing by being very deliberate in promoting local manufacturing and making imported products that can be manufactured here locally more expensive. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, starting economic growth, Honorable Speaker. We've seen President Trump's administration stamp tariffs on imported products, Honorable Speaker. It is because they want to build America and make sure that American companies succeed. We must do the same as a country. We must be selfish as a country and say Kenya first. And for us to do that, the only way is to impose tariffs on imported finished products and make sure that we make it easy to import the raw materials, manufacture here, assemble here, and make sure that we buy Kenya and build Kenya, Mr. Speaker. President Ruto once said during the launch of a factory in West Pokot that a locally made Datsun is better than an imported Rolls-Royce. You must forgive where I come from. R's and L's can become complicated. And I share the same views. Our locally manufactured products may not be the best, but we support them, we shall get there. Honorable Speaker, this Honorable House, in the Finance Act of 2022, introduced excise duty on imported furniture. Honorable Speaker, there was a lot of debate saying there are so many furniture that cannot be produced locally. But what have we achieved now? If you go along Gong Road, if you go along Kiambu Road, if you along Eastern Bypass, if you go to my constituency in the mall and everywhere, we have so many people that are locally making furniture, Honorable Speaker. Seats that were very expensive, called recliner seats. We only imagined we could import them from China and Turkey. Now we have fundis here in Roysambu that are making those recliner seats here. Because this Honorable House made a deliberate decision to support local manufacturing of furniture. You heard President Ruto say, hii kitu inaitwa furniture ni mbao tu na msumari na nyundo. And people thought it was a joke. Until now you've seen even activists, some of them like Karara and a great businessman called Moraga, Honorable Speaker, have excelling furniture business, courtesy of policy interventions that were passed in this Honorable Speaker. As I wind up, I want to reiterate. As a country, we must be selfish. We must make sure we support local manufacturing of our products. And how we do that is by having tariffs that make it more expensive for imported products and grow our own manufacturing. It's going to start slowly, but it's going to grow, and we can be a hub of manufacturing around the region and in Africa. Honorable Speaker, I beg to second.
Thank you. All members, before I propose a question for the bill for debate, join me in welcoming students from Jabali Primary and Junior School, Kiambaa constituency, Kiambu County, and students from Save Our Souls Junior Secondary School, Nyali, Mombasa County. They are welcome to follow the proceeding of this house this morning, and all the members, you can see them seated in the public gallery. We said that we welcome them through a foot thump. All of us. I now propose the question that the excise duty amendment bill, National Assembly Bill number 7, 2025, be now read a second time. The Honorable Gikaria.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to re-emphasize what the majority leader has just moved and seconded by the Chair of Finance. Honorable Speaker, if there is something that will spur the economic growth in this country, is transformers. Honorable Speaker, sometimes people take it lightly when they see the President launching some last mile connectivity someplace. Honorable Speaker, others criticize that, but they don't know the importance of what the President is doing by going to launch that very important component. Honorable Speaker, energy is an enabler. Honorable Speaker, that is going on in the country is about the debate of the cost of electricity. Honorable Speaker, as we are talking, within the committee now, we are looking into the independent power producers and how much we can be able to contribute towards lowering the cost of electricity. And Honorable Speaker, what has been moved